6868 is the number. You can also text us at 680-680. Well, my friends, it's on. The special Senate election race is heating up. The Democrats have at least two candidates, Congressman Ed Markey, Congressman Stephen Lynch. The Republicans now, State Senator Dan Winslow is in the race, Navy SEAL or former Navy SEAL Gabrielle Gomez, and now we are joined by another potential candidate, former U.S. Attorney Mike Sullivan. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the Kuhner Report.
Hey, good morning, Jeff, and thanks for having me on. I'd say welcome to Boston, but you've been here too long to say welcome to Boston.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Although it's great to be here, Mike. Mike, you're one of the most interesting candidates I've seen in a long time. If you can just do the listeners a big favor, basically tell them a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you come from, and most importantly, Mike, why are you running?
And I don't want to bore your listeners, so cut me off, Jeff, or have Cooksey cut me off as soon as it gets a little bit boring here. But I'm just a regular person, born in the city of Boston, in the South End. My dad worked for the phone company. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and he fulfilled the American dream by buying a small house and raising his 7 kids. Had a great family that was very supportive of me, second oldest of 7, 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Went to public schools and Boston College High School and BC, and then left BC after my first year to take a job at Gillette, to help pay for my education. And fortunately, I stayed at Gillette for 16 years, and the fortunate part of it was the experience I gained, the relationships I made, and the fact that they helped pay for my education. So I completed my undergraduate degree and law degree at Gillette, and then went out and entered private law practice, ran for the Massachusetts House of Representatives, got elected 3 times. It was a privilege and honor to serve the 7th Plymouth District, and became district attorney of Plymouth County back in 1995 upon the death of a long-standing DA, Bill O'Malley, and served as the DA of Plymouth County for about 6.5 years, and took over as U.S. Attorney just a few days after the 9/11 attacks on the United States, and served for almost 8 years as U.S. Attorney in the District of Massachusetts. And for a portion of that, the last
Mike, sorry, I don't mean
years.
to cut you off, but I'm just curious. What is it? I mean, obviously, you have a very impressive resume. There's no question about it. What is it about the state of the country now that's compelling you to run?
I'm just concerned about where we're at and where we appear to be heading, particularly around our inability to control spending, which I think, unless there's a plan to control spending, to manage the budget, to reduce the deficits, it's going to destroy the nation. It's going to destroy really the middle class of America, and we'll have 2 classes: the haves and the have-nots. And the greatness of the United States is such a robust middle class. It inspires people with very little to start with, to sacrifice and work hard. And as you're looking, you're seeing a very much a shrinking middle class, which I think destroys really the nation and the heart and soul of the nation.
Mike, if you were to be elected, if you were to be the Republican nominee and you go up against either Ed Markey or Stephen Lynch, what is it about the Democrats that you think the people of Massachusetts need to know about in terms of how destructive their policies have been? Is it the taxes? Is it the spending? What is it about the Democrats that you think in particular is hammering the middle class?
Well, I think it's both. I think it's both the taxes and the spending. And at some point in time, there's going to be fewer and fewer people able to support this growing federal budget, and that means that they're going to be taking more and more from the middle class, and leaving less for what the middle class goals really is, and stability in terms of family, and the opportunity to fulfill the American dream by sending their children to college, and then finding good jobs in terms of their own kids. So I think from that perspective, it's extremely challenging. But I think my goal, Jeff, would really to let the people know a little bit about Mike Sullivan and the very common sense approach that I take to problem solving and oftentimes looking for common ground, without sacrificing principles. I think principles at the end of the day is how you're going to be measured. Do you stand firm in terms of your principles? I've always found myself to be a very effective listener, so I think hearing what the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts understand is important issues from their perspective, and then going to Washington and serving the people.
Now, Mike, where do you stand on taxes? Would you have, for example, voted the way Scott Brown did on the fiscal cliff deal of 6 weeks ago, whenever it was?
I think that there may have been a serious missed opportunity with regards to making part of that a deal in terms of significant budget cuts as well, and prioritizing spending at the federal level. And I understand that we have some tremendous priorities and needs at the federal level, starting with national security. I mean, if a nation isn't safe, then little else matters. I also understand and appreciate, and I'm committed to fulfilling our promises to our greatest generation and making sure that those things that they invested in, Medicare and Social Security, are protected for that group. So I think fulfilling our promises is critically important, but job growth is critical in terms of the current generation. So, the problem, I think, for the Senate generally is the fact that they seem to have a habit of kicking a can down the street. At some point in time, somebody has to pay, for the lack of action by the Senate. I think it's interesting. President Obama is not seen as a frugal president, yet the United States Senate's budget proposals have actually been larger than the president's own budget proposal at a time when we're suffering serious, budget deficits.
Mike, would you let me just rattle off some of the issues very quickly. On taxes, would you raise taxes?
I would not. I think at this point in time, I think taxes are too high and cannot be sustained over the long term.
So would you take a pledge? Would you make a pledge to the voters of Massachusetts you'll never raise taxes?
Well, I would say yes, except in the interest of national security. I think if our nation is under attack, people during previous world wars sacrificed much in order to protect the United States. I think that there are some limited circumstances in which the nation as a whole would believe, that additional sacrifice is necessary, to protect our nation. And I think national security is certainly one of them.
The federal assault weapons ban.
Well, this is an area I find very interesting. I served as the director of ATF for 2.5 years, and was there sadly at the assault at Virginia Tech, and the federal government at that point in time took a long and hard look in terms of how do we minimize these mass killings. So I think it's important to look at results and not rhetoric. To see whether or not there are policies that actually have a positive effect in terms of reducing crime. And I've been going after those people who have been using firearms to commit criminal offenses, and those people that are prohibited persons for a long period of time, and prosecuting them. We have sufficient laws on the books to address it. The weakness we learned during the Virginia Tech investigation was the weakness in terms of the way that we collect mental health records. And the federal government at that point in time saw that most states essentially didn't provide the mental health records to determine whether or not somebody was a prohibited person, because under the federal firearm laws, somebody who's adjudicated mentally ill should not be receiving a firearm. So I think the issue concerning the assault weapons ban is more about rhetoric than it is about results. So, Mike,
just so I'm clear, you would not support the ban on federal assault weapons?
No, I wouldn't, because the fact of the matter is it doesn't have the intended results. Even the Obama administration's own report is indicating the assault weapons ban would not have an impact in terms of mass killings.
Abortion. Mike, where do you stand on the issue of abortion?
Well, I'm pro-life, so certainly that's not going to change as a result of a U.S. Senate campaign.
Gay marriage.
I think a marriage is between a man and a woman. Certainly, civil unions, I think, are different. And I also think that if there's going to be a change with regards to the law, it should be done, by the will of the people, either a referendum question or a vote of the legislature.
Amnesty, do you support Obama's plan that's now being circulated on Capitol Hill of amnesty for illegal immigrants?
I do not. I don't think we should be rewarding bad behavior. Certainly, I think there has to be some reforms with regards to immigration, but I don't think we should be rewarding bad behavior. Certainly people that have an interest towards a path of citizenship or to be legally authorized to be in the United States should follow a certain path.
We have been talking with former U.S. Attorney Mike Sullivan. He has now thrown his hat in the ring to become for the Republican nomination for the special Senate race. Mike, you got to get, 10,000 signatures, I believe?
Well, people have told us this is the impossible task, is to collect over 10,000 signatures in less than 2 weeks. And there are two things working against us. It's the calendar and the weather. But the fact of the matter is the thing that's working for us is a huge grassroots effort to get 10,000 signatures. So notwithstanding the weather, we've been working extremely hard. We're very excited. I'm humbled by the amount of support and the 250 warriors around the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that have been working hard in terms of getting the signatures again on the ballot. We have until 5 o'clock a week from tomorrow in order to submit those signatures to the city and town clerks.
Mike, where can people go to sign up, to support you, to get their signature, to put you on the ballot?
Well, a couple of places. One, they can go to our Facebook page. It's called Draft Mike Sullivan. And the other place they can go is they can call 781-832-0130. That's 781-832-0130.
We have been talking with former U.S. Attorney Mike Sullivan. He's definitely very serious about running for the Republican nomination for the special Senate race. Mike, it was a true pleasure having you on. You're a patriot, my friend, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Jeff.
God bless you, Mike.
Take care.
617-266-6868. I got to tell you, from what I heard, seems to me very solid on a lot of the issues. What I heard, I was impressed with. Janet Napolitano is buying more bullets. I wonder why.